Yesterday, an appellate court in New Orleans heard arguments on a key immigration case that involves the legality of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, better known as DACA, and could determine the future for hundreds of thousands of young immigrants. Now, the Biden administration led an appeal against a ruling by U.S. District Court judge who ruled last year that DACA was illegal. And while the hearing has energized advocates on both sides of the aisle, The Hill's Rafael Bernal reports that it's unlikely to be resolved anytime soon. Rafael joins us now to expand on the case further. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always great to see you. So tell us what's at stake in this case, and what is the administration's argument, and what's the current legal status?
So the parameters are really, they go from a decision to maintain DACA, saying that if the administration and immigrant advocates get their way fully, the administration would be able to fully re-implement the program, expand it, change it as it sees best, essentially saying that deferred action is a power that the executive has, and that Congress has given the executive broad powers to interpret that deferred action. Now, of course, the flip side of it is a complete termination of the program. Now, that's very, very unlikely to mean that people who currently have DACA would completely just overnight lose their benefits, but it would mean a continued current status where the administration is not allowed to bring new people on board into the program, and and that means people would eventually age out, and DACA would cease to exist over time.
So what do you So what are you expecting to be the outcome of the case? Any hints at that?
Well, it's very clear that whatever happens in the Fifth Circuit, and this could take months to just go through the Fifth Circuit, so we're going to stay the way we are. Whatever happens there, it's going to be appealed, whether it's to the full Fifth Circuit, right now it's just with a 3-judge panel, or whether it's to the Supreme Court. So likely ends up in the Supreme Court. Now, that's where things get a little bit muddier, because yes, there is a conservative supermajority in the Supreme Court, but we saw Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh sided with the liberals in the most recent immigration case. That its similarity to the DACA case is about how much power Congress has given to the executive to interpret immigration law. So really, I mean, I'd say the coin is up in the air on that one. There's and arguments are actually very important in this case.
Well, the executive government has a lot. Congress has the executive branch of government has a lot of power when it comes to immigration. It's one of the few things. Immigrants don't fall under the strict scrutiny or protected classes. Executive government has a lot of unilateral issues. Unilateral power. I know this because I'm an immigrant and I came to America in 2008, and the laws haven't changed. I know it's a popular perception that it's Republicans super against immigration progress, but the Democrats have not been particularly progressive on it either. It hasn't changed much in terms of people similarly situated to me in all of the time I've been in America, in about 15 years. And I find the pushback to DACA particularly troubling, because so often people have this conversation about doing it the right way, right? Not really realizing that, one, most people can't, they don't have a route to citizenship. And I know this as my own self does not have citizenship and does not have a route to applying to citizenship, and I'm someone who came here on a student visa. I'm a lawyer admitted to the courts, and in the case of DACA, that was a route that our government created and gave people this route so that they could get themselves in compliance. So it's interesting to see so many people push back on this and want it gone, and to get rid of these people who rely on DACA. And I wonder the motivation there. What do you think?
I'm right there behind you. I came to this country in 2011, so just 3 years behind you, yes. And in the same process. But yeah, I think the fundamental idea is that Congress has been sclerotic on immigration for 25 years, for 30 years, really. There's no hope that there will be big changes. So the INA, the Immigration and Nationality Act, that we have now is probably the one we'll have for the foreseeable future. So the one motivation, of course, is political. We are in an election year. Tying the defense of DACA to what's going on at the border, as unfair as it may seem to anybody who's really looking at these issues, considering they're completely separate resources. There's
Right.
one government lawyer arguing in the Fifth Circuit is not going to take away from whatever the Border Patrol is doing. But that argument is being made that resources are being driven toward defending DACA rather than driven toward, quote unquote, defending the border.
Right.
So the political motivation is there, and then there are many groups. They're not populous, but they are powerful, who advocate for decreased immigration, who say fewer immigrants are better for the country. Now, most economists disagree with this, most sociologists disagree with this, but those groups exist and they have grassroots power and they have a lot of influence in today's Republican Party. And if the argument is simply fewer immigrants, then litigating against DACA or any other liberalizing immigration program simply just logically follows.
Right. And it's unfortunate. I feel the frustration for people that are recipients of DACA, because we have to remember, these are people that have been in America since they were children, right? When DACA came about, it's specifically to protect people. They've lived their lives here for all intents and purposes. While they may not have U.S. citizenship, they probably identify as Americans. They've built their lives here. They've been there since they were children, and that's the reason we're affording them this benefit. So it's unfortunate to see this push, so many people going out of their way, I feel, to treat them as though they don't have any right or entitlement to feel like they should be able to live here and continue their lives here and to be in lawful status.
Yeah. It's really not about Dreamers. It's about the politics of immigration. Exactly. I think Dreamers are recognized as a very sympathetic group to a broad majority of Americans. I think in the 70s or 80s percentile. Sort of support Dreamers and support their path to citizenship, but it does tie well in a political spectrum. It does tie well to perceptions of what's going on at the border and perceptions of what further immigration can bring to this country.
Right.
Well, thank you, Rafael.
It's a pleasure being here.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.